I've been learning a lot about like India and the Himalayas and yoga. And I know a lot of people in the West believe that yoga is simply like an exercise or physical practice, but there's a whole ancient meaning and significance to yoga. And, these yogis, through this practice of guru to disciple, have been embodying these amazing spiritual capabilities. And some of them get absorbed in meditation for hundreds of years, and they're doing all these miraculous things. So could you elaborate on what really is yoga and how that relates or ties into us and what we're doing here and how we can kind of tap into that same practice and capability?
Yes, we are the Lemurian collective, and it's important for us to step forward now because many of the ancient yogic practice has stemmed from processes that we have used ourselves in our own civilization. And the yogic practice is a blending of breath with physical to allow the two fields that are so separate and seen on your planet as deliberately needing attention to work effortlessly together as one. It is the yogic practice to allow the breath to alchemize and transform the physical body beyond a linear range. And this is why many of the ancient yogis could live beyond the linear years that you are now used to, because the rebirthing of the body would take place time and time again. There are multiple answers to your question as to why this happens. And so we want to bring some of the most beneficial ones forward so that you have an understanding of what takes place within. But this has much to do with the original human structure. And this is not to disappoint you in any way, shape, or form, but where you stand today is a different physical structure and non-physical technology than what you were seated in. Very similar to the plant collectives on your earth that have been hybridized away from purity. Many of you understand also that you have been genetically modified. The original yogic practices were tuned to the inner sound of Gaia. Now, Gaia herself holds the ability to chronically reorganize and expand at will. Earth has a number of years that can be applied, but continues to thrive and expand dependent upon the diverse energies within her. So when we look at the original sound within the core of Gaia, what we're hearing and we're interpreting is the sound of the universe, because this is what she was born in. And you are all born of this sound as well. Any methodical yogic practice is allowing that harmonic to be raised again. It connects you beyond the self to a field or a presence that cannot be contained in physical, cannot be contained within the body. And this is how you were designed. You were designed for the prana of earth and the universe to constantly nourish and support you as a cellular being. There are several insights we want to mention about this process. And we'll first start with what we call the central meridian or vagal channel. The vagal channel or central meridian runs through the center of your body, and it is a very extra-sensitive acoustic tool. What it does is it sends energy and communication through the body, through the metallic grids that are present within Earth and connect to you, so that there's a recycling of energy, meaning there's a flow, a constant bringing in and a recycling of and sending out what is not needed. This is the ultimate detoxification that you can interact with. When the body is in the midst of a pranic harmony, pulling in what is needed and exhaling what is not, it is finding its purity again. And this is what we most desire for all of you at this time, believing that it will actually reinstall that original technology that you were seated in before. Now, we also recognize there is a sonic to this. Sonic and harmonic we define very differently. We look at harmonic as the ability to come into resonance with, and sonic being more individual, because there is an individualized part of you that is so special and close to God. And we see yogic practice as having the focus on becoming as close to God as possible. And those that practiced it for many years, hundreds of years, were able to, as a container, bring that God consciousness to earth. This is why enlightened masters and yogis who are in the presence of others could actually heal and change them instantaneously, because the yogic practice was bringing their godlike self back into embodiment and sharing it through their auric field as a sonic, as a unique signal. Now, this is present within your DNA. Many of you carry this yogic signature of masters who have been present on the planet and shared this vibration with others, and very easily tune in and tap into it yourselves. We also see an alternative process of nourishment that goes beyond physical that is very significant and a benefit of yogic practice through time. Ancient yogis could go without food or water for a long period of time because the nourishment they were receiving from the breath was all that was required. It turns the body into a powerhouse of life force energy that needs nothing from the physical material realm. It only sustains itself based on the breath. We see that many of you come back to teach this to humanity as well. Now, we want to leave you with a final thought. You are on a different timeline than many of these ancient yogis, yet the Akashic remembrance of them and their practices are coming back readily. It is not because you are meant to practice it deliberately or even sit in a cave for hundreds of linear years activating yourself in this way. These masters offered these assignments so that you could understand the value and the simplicity and significance of these practices. They left behind a template or a guidepost so that they could be recognized as holding the potential to heal. And many of you will do the same, yet in different ways.
I'd like to add on to that question and ask, how are the yogic practices different from tantric practices?
And we are the Lemurians, and they are somewhat one and the same, because the yogic and tantric practices have evolved from the same teaching. They have been utilized in different civilizations and taken on different subtleties and named different things. And it is very similar to the different strains of yogic practice that are being shared and taught today. Many of these have their roots in different multi-galactic lineages, and they have come back again through master teachers and conduits who have a tie to these lineages. The tantric breath is more of an active type of breath that we see directly focused on life force. And this is why Tantra has been focused in more of an intimate and sexual way on your human planet, because life force is the basis for all creation. And we see it having a similar ability to what we have spoken of, rebirthing the physical body over and over again in the same container. The tantric breath actually stems from an ancient practice through and by which collective energies were modified through individualized focus. Some of you look at tantric practice as an aspect of coupling. And in our civilization, we had much similar focus to you, as the couple was a sacred union that was not just for the self and the other. We believed that couples came together because there was some life force signature that matched. And in that life force signature, each was complementing the other to create something within that civilization. So the Tantra was practiced knowing that the entire collective would benefit if that couple as a consciousness itself, could cultivate and co-create a currency. That currency starting in non-physical and eventually benefiting whatever was meant to be shared physically. We see this same benefit for many of you today who are practicing Tantra as a couple or even coming together in collectives to utilize tantric breath. This can actually simulate and activate the vagal tones that we've spoken of in the yogic practice that have a direct tie to extrasensory gifts and abilities. Because in the Tantra, the sensory becomes very heightened, and that heightened sensory on your planet is an advantageous type of experience. Many of you we've seen have blocked your ability to feel. This goes in many directions. It comes from blocking emotions and traumas, and especially not wanting to be vulnerable and take the path of betrayal or pain. But what Tantra has the ability to do is automatically heal those areas that have been suppressed for so long, that are holding humans back in general from being vulnerable with each other and feeling into the sensory of their own bodies and extrasensory abilities.